Michigan is the #4 state in the country for people opposing getting vaccinations and immunizations. What are your thoughts on that with the whole flu and the MMR and whooping cough that's going on right now? Do you think that we should mandate vaccinations?
I don't know about mandate, but I'm certainly a supporter of vaccinations. So, it's not something I think we've dealt with a lot.
Yeah, it hasn't come up a lot in policies in our time there. As I guess the guy with the youngest children here right now, kids who are still in the midst of getting those vaccinations, I'm a huge proponent for doing it. I think they're well worth any small amount of risk that there is with taking vaccinations, and I don't deny that, you can't deny that there's some risk. I mean, the federal government even has a fund set aside to help people who are hurt occasionally by them. But they're worth it. They're so worth it for whether it's your individual family or for the society as a whole. I look at Northern's policy. When I first enrolled there, you had to have been vaccinated to enroll there. It was a requirement. And I'm not sure that I want us at the state level going forward with telling people they can't object. I understand people have, whether it's sincere religious beliefs or other opposition to it or genuine fear of them. But I think it's kind of up to a lot of the private institutions or even some of the state institutions to check their policies. How are they best protecting their student body or their employees? And what kind of policies should they put in place, like what Northern has done? And maybe that's the avenue that should be looked at instead. We certainly should be working very hard to encourage more vaccinations and to encourage better information on them so people understand them better. And also, maybe bringing forward more of the medical community to explain whether or not they need to be all given at once. I know there's a lot of concern, and there's just so much stuff on the internet that's such bad information. And what can we do to make sure people are getting really sound information that's not, that comes from reliable scientific sources that people can trust? Because right now I think that's the biggest part. People just have they don't know who they can trust when it comes to the information.
Probably one of the best things too is our local health departments too, for them
Absolutely.
to be able to put out the word to make sure that we are, getting the message to our people, especially with our locals, because they know everyone and they're familiar with it and they're comfortable with it. I think that's one of the biggest things is to get the word out.
Tremendous resource.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Does it put the state at a disadvantage having so many people refusing to get vaccines, or?
Michigan has one of the largest, if you want to call it a loophole or opportunity for backing out of the vaccinations. We have a very broad exemption towards it, and you can tell it's being utilized, and perhaps we need to investigate what some of the other states have and look at modifying ours in such a way that helps. But I think you can't really twist people's arms into it. You need better information. You need to use those local resources in a better way.
Cyberbullying in schools and making schools have to recognize cyberbullying in their curriculum somehow. What are your thoughts on not only cyberbullying, but other cyber issues such as hacking, and what can we do to deal with them?
I didn't support that, and the reason I didn't is I felt like we were passing something that doesn't have a chance of doing anything. As far as the cyberbullying is concerned, they were talking about in the school is where they were, what I understood the bill to do was focus on in school. But the minute I'm outside of the school, these things could be happening. I think for me, I didn't want to put my name on something like that. I know it sounded good, and I'm not for bullying, and we shouldn't be doing those things. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe leaving a false sense of hope that we could solve this problem through this legislation, and I don't see that at all. I see it being a bigger problem and more of something that's going on within our own society, and I don't see the legislation solving the problem.
I guess one other comment on the bullying part of it. I think that our local school districts and the UP are operated quite well, and I think they can identify the people that they're having issues with, and I really like to see that they have the ultimate decisions on that.
Having a law in Lansing that says thou shalt not bully is, totally ineffective, and our local schools are the place that has to handle that issue, and our local parents. That's where it's at. Laws in Lansing are not going to stop kids from bullying each other.
Right. And, you know, I think it's, all of us will acknowledge, we didn't really study this bill because it was sitting in the Senate to die, and it came up at about 5:30 in the morning.
In order to pass road funding.
In order to pass road funding. I mean, I'm not going to say that's how it works, but when you need a senator to get on board to vote, you run his bill. So,
It was not my bill.
not this senator.
Yeah.
So we're going to speak of this, Senator, right after we downplayed term limits, huh?
That's right.
With the LGBT civil rights expanding, what are your thoughts on the expansion? Do you think we need more, less? We'll start with you, Casperson.
As far as you're talking about the Elliott Larson?
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't be in support of that. I didn't think that, I thought we have laws on the books already for discrimination and those type of things. My concern was if we go to the next level and we identify a group of people as a minority in this case, there's a lot of ramifications to that. And I know there was good intentions behind it. It's not that what they were trying to accomplish possibly were bad intentions, but the ramifications of it could be extreme in many cases, at least those that could affect those people of faith. And so I don't support it because I don't see it solving any problems other than giving a group some type of special status. And especially with looking at what's going on in the country today, we're not seeing that work so well.
You know, this is an issue where there's going to be disagreement amongst us. I am a supporter of it. I always have been. And I guess I'll leave it at that. I just viewed it as a way to maybe end some discrimination that's going on. I think we're probably going to look at it again the next term.
I felt that the law is pretty clear right now about discrimination being wrong, and I didn't feel that there were any compelling cases brought forward that showed that the law was somehow in deficit. Clearly, people can bring forward some situations where discrimination happens, but not ones that they can show where the law was allowing for those and that this change of law would somehow have stopped those from happening. So I didn't feel like the expansion was at all necessary, and I think it did set some particular new legal problems that would come forward with, especially in church community or in small business ownership. There were new legal problems that were ginned up by moving forward with the expansion that you could count as the ripple effects that would happen. And so I didn't think that it was necessary. I didn't feel like a compelling case was brought forward or made for it to be done. But clearly opposing discrimination and wanting the laws that we have on the books right now to be better enforced in that regard.
Definitely supported it, and I think the discussion across the state and the country is going to have to be where we get away from a lot of this is go back to the true citizenship of our country. I think that we'd have less discrimination if we were all considered a citizen and start getting away from different groups or any type of race. I think that we got to take a look at being a true citizen, because a lot of our forefathers came across the oceans to be in this country and they escaped religious prosecution. So I think the true word citizenship, either on a state level or federal level, is what we got to concentrate on.
And again, I mean, here's an issue where we don't all agree on. And Scott and I understood a long time ago that, these two are Republicans. They're going to be wrong from time to time. And we just move on.
Anyone else have?
That sounds like discrimination to me.
Yeah, he's
but
discriminating against us.
No, it was
Don't
bullying.
feel that way.
Bullying, yeah, and
Oh, it's-
bullying on top of it, yeah.
It was in person, though. It wasn't cyberbullying. Okay. All right, my last question. What do you guys think about the use of drones for maybe inspection of roads or mines or gas lines? Do you think this is something that we should be looking at and possibly using, or it's not a good thing to use or invest in?
I think it's a great tool for a lot of areas, but I think there's obviously some areas of concern. And I know Tom had some legislation that, address hunting, that, you can't scare hunters off or use them as weapons, things of that nature. So I think there's certainly law enforcement uses. I think, studying bridges and overpasses, absolutely, there's a ton of uses for them.
Agriculture has a ton of opportunity with drones for inspecting fields, getting out in the middle of a field right now without having to make an impact on the crop that's growing. I think that there's a great opportunity there. Clearly with law enforcement there is too, but I think when you go into the law enforcement, then you start to get into this concern. It's like, well, if they're allowed to watch you doing something that's legal until it's illegal, at what point was that okay? And that's some of the bills that were put out there about drones and hunting. It's like, well, if you're on your private land and they're watching you and you're not doing anything illegal, should they be allowed to watch you? Well, but as soon as you did something illegal, now it was okay for them to be watching. It's just, there's certain things when it comes to private property rights too that have to balance out, and that's I think we got some pretty clear signals from legislators and the Department of Natural Resources and the governor's office here at the end of the term that they're very interested in kind of opening up this issue and really putting some good laws in the books before drones become much more ubiquitous on the landscape in the future.
We do have a lot of great things that are happening with those technologies that are emerging. We have Michigan Tech with the Great Lakes Center that are studying the pipeline under the Straits of Mackinac. Fully support those type of
Yep.
initiatives. The thing that is really concerned with me also is just the law enforcement and just the, having that oversight of being watched. I think it's a violation of our privacy to think that law enforcement is going to be able to have drones. I think that's just something that I'm very uncomfortable with.
Anyone else have any final thoughts or anything they would like to add? In general, just about anything, not just drones.
Go Packers.
Go Lions.
Go Pack.
Super Bowl.
Go Pack.
Go Pack, go.
We really appreciate our colleagues here, but I definitely want to see some frowns in that next Sunday game. Our Lions want to make sure that we represent the state of Michigan well.
We'll go easy on Scott and his loss. We'll be decent.
We'll keep representing
There you
the
go.
UP.
We will not bully. We'll be respectful.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys sitting down with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.